Yeah, go ahead.
Alright, we're gonna fly you out back.
Mom!
What happened with the family? The road crew?
Well, the county was found negligent and had to pay $300,000 to the family in damages. The trial, not an easy thing to go through.
So how'd the trial go?
Well, as always, they peeled back the layers of time in an effort to tell the truth.
Court is in session. Mr. Knight, you may cross-examine.
The lawsuit in this case was a claim for damages because the driver was killed in the crash. The family is the plaintiff, and they're represented by an attorney who does his best to win the case for them. If he wins, the family gets money from the county to compensate them for their losses.
So who's the defendant?
The defendant is a county who's also represented by an attorney. This attorney tries to shine the best possible light on the county's actions. She may claim the driver's distraction influenced the outcome of the crash. Both sides present their case about how the crash occurred and what caused it. A trial like this can be heated and emotional since there are serious injuries and loss of life. So a lot of money's at stake. The judge is the referee over the whole process and makes sure that the rules and procedures are followed correctly so that both sides are treated fairly under the law.
So this was a jury trial?
Oh yes. The jury decides who's at fault or liable for causing the crash. If the county's found negligent and to have caused the crash, they'll be held responsible for paying damages in an amount decided by the jury. Sympathy can often create large damage awards. The jury hears evidence from the witnesses and experts, reviews documents, and decides if the county did a reasonable job of what they were supposed to do or not do. So, negligence is basically not doing something you're supposed to do, or doing something you're not supposed to do in a similar circumstance. You can be found liable if you don't do your job correctly and your actions are held to have caused a crash which injured someone.
How did the crash occur?
The driver ran in the back of my pickup.
Could you speak up, please, so the ladies and gentlemen of the jury can hear you?
A driver ran in the back of my pickup.
What kind of work were you doing?
We're patching one lane on Fraser.
Did you have that lane closed to traffic?
Yes.
What traffic control devices were you using?
We had a road work ahead sign. We had some cones in the area. Also, I was doing some flagging.
Did you have just one flagger?
Yes, I was doing the flagging.
Can you explain how you were controlling traffic?
Well, I was behind my pickup on the lane that we were patching, and I would stop the traffic, and when it looked clear, I'd let them through.
So, traffic from the opposite direction was not stopped?
No, sir. It just kept on coming.
Aren't you supposed to use two flaggers, one controlling each direction for work on a road like this?
I'm not sure if we're really supposed to, but we normally do, especially like the road like Fraser.
Well, then why weren't you using two flaggers?
We had some men call in sick that day.
Were you flagging at the moment when the crash happened?
No, sir. I went to answer the radio.
So you weren't even controlling traffic when my client came past?
No, sir.
We brought into court the road work ahead sign and a traffic cone that were in place at the time of the crash. Did you set them up before the work started?
Yes, sir.
I'd like you to step down here, please, and show the jury how you set the sign up.
Like this.
So the bottom of the sign was on the ground.
Yes.
How far was the sign from the work zone or your pickup?
Not sure, but probably about 100 feet.
Have you ever had any classroom training in work zone traffic control?
No classroom training, but another worker gave me some pointers when I joined the county.
I'm holding up the Texas Manual on Uniform Traffic Control. Are you familiar with the Texas Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices?
Oh, I've heard of it, but no.
Did you know that it applies to county work?
I know it applies to state, but I'm not sure of county.
This sign and the cone look beat up and faded. How did you expect a driver to see them?
I really didn't think about that, but that's what I had in the truck.
Did you know that the manual says that traffic control devices should be maintained?
No, sir.
I'm holding up here a copy of the Texas Quality Guidelines for Work Zone Traffic Control Devices. This helps you tell if a device is acceptable, marginal, or unacceptable. Are you familiar with this guidebook?
No, sir.
Did you know that the guidebook says that signs are unacceptable if some letters have a loss of more than 50%, and that cones and signs are unacceptable if there is a noticeable color fading?
Oh, no, sir.
Did you know that the manual requires that signs be mounted a minimum of 1 foot off the ground?
No, sir.
Did you know that the manual specifies sign spacing and distances based on the speed of traffic?
No, sir.
Did you have a strobe or rotating light on your pickup truck?
Oh, we did, but it wasn't working at the time.
Did you have a traffic control plan when you went out on the job?
No, sir.
For the job you were doing, did you know that the manual contains a typical application that shows more signs than the road work ahead sign, has a table that shows sign spacing and distances, and shows 2 flaggers in place?
No, sir.
As foreman of the work crew, did you normally document the traffic control setup that you used?
No, sir.
I have no further questions.
Sounds like they were alleging that the county didn't follow the manual. 2 eggs. Thanks.
These claims usually involve some kind of issue relating to the manual. It's amazing how many times it's been referenced in court cases.
So, who is supposed to use the manual?
Just about everybody. If you're working on a public highway, street, or road in Texas, whether maintained by TxDOT, a county, or a municipality, anytime you're on a roadway, you need to have the manual.
I did not know that.
A lot of people don't. The manual states that temporary traffic control plans should be in place by all responsible parties before you even occupy a site. The manual even gives examples of traffic control setups for common roadwork activities in the typical application section. Here, figure TA10 provides for a 2-flagger situation, which is exactly what the crew should have used that day.
Well, doesn't Teeks produce a booklet called the Reference Guide to Work Zone Traffic Control, which also provides examples?
That's right, they produce a defensive flagger booklet, which provides guidance on traffic control flagging situations. Both of these booklets are based on the manual.
So in this case, they show you what signs and flaggers that you need.
Yes, you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time you set up traffic control.
Well, what about this one? Isn't this the guidebook mentioned in the trial that helps you tell when signs or cones need to be replaced?
Yes, pages 12 and 13 illustrate the signs that are unacceptable, and some of the letters have a loss of more than 50%, and if there's a noticeable color fading.
Now, what documentation were they asking about in the trial?
For example, notes taken by the foreman that describe plan, execution, crew, and equipment used. It's just something that helps prove what you say is true.
Well, big agencies have formal procedures set up for documentation and inspection. But look around you. We're a small county. What can we do?
At a minimum, I recommend a simple 2-sheet documentation process. On the first sheet, let's call it the assignment sheet. You write down the date, the location of the work, what the work consists of, the personnel assigned, and the equipment, and assigned including traffic control devices. The second sheet is a traffic control plan, which is usually a copy of the typical application from the manual.
Sounds pretty simple.
It is, and very helpful if you ever go to trial. Not just to prove that you have a case, but for the very reason of preventing what happened to this crew, this family.
Guess it's pretty obvious why the county lost this case.
There was no way to walk into court and prove that the traffic control setup was correct according to the manual. Sign height, absence of flagger, condition of sign and cones, a lack of signs and strobes on the work vehicles. It just wasn't a good situation.
If only that driver had paid more attention.
If only, man. If only that road crew had done things right. Think how their lives would be different. Think of the families.
If only. You're right, if only. Well, I've got to run.
See you later.
Mama.
Not now. You need to help. I have to watch the road.
Yeah, this is Adam. Go ahead.
Go ahead, what lane up ahead? Do tell him back out here.
All right. 10-4. Appreciate it.
I got it for him. Look.